This message comes to you from King's Church Wirral, UK. We hope that as you listen, you will be encouraged, blessed and inspired. So I remember many times in school, other people may remember these moments when you're in class and the teacher mentions these dreaded words. You're going to need to do a presentation in front of the class. Maybe other people didn't have that dreaded feeling, but I was one of those who had that dreaded feeling. I was quite happy to write an essay, do anything other than have to get up in front of people and speak. And I can remember one time in chemistry and getting up to speak, and we were even there was 2 other people getting up with me, and I just got the giggles, and I just could not contain I just started laughing. My teacher was like, "Do you need to go out of the classroom to compose yourself?" And nothing, I just couldn't compose myself because I was so nervous and it just came out as me laughing. I can remember then later on in my life being on a Deeper Life team, which was like an 1830s weekend away. And because I was on the team, I was asked to do an announcement. 1 minute up from the front doing an announcement. Oh my goodness, I was so nervous and I was thinking to myself, why on earth have I agreed to get up and do this announcement? Why didn't I just say no? Why do I put myself through this feeling of nervousness? Then I went to Bible college later on, and I come back to the Wirral, and I was often asked to speak in the summer, once a week, 1 week out of the summer holidays, not every week. And I would spend ages preparing, and then the nerves that would accompany having to get up and speak was just really great. And as time has gone on in my life, I've become a lot more comfortable with speaking from the front, but I still get nerves. And leading up to coming to speak in front of people, the nerves are still there, but it's not weeks and months before, it might just be of the morning. And the reason why I'm telling you about this is because being up the front was something I dreaded. It was something that I was hoping would, after school, I would never have to do in my life again. And I didn't really have a choice in school, but as an adult, have to an extent got a choice as to whether I get up and speak. But the reason why I get up and speak is because my heart and desire is always want to say yes to God. In these instances where I've agreed outside of school to get up and speak, I've always felt God sort of prompted me to do so. But speaking at the front is way outside of my comfort zone, and I don't know if many can relate to that, but it is way out my comfort zone. And what I mean by comfort zone is this sort of psychological state where you feel familiar, you feel safe, and you feel in control. It's a space where you don't really experience much anxiety and you can predict the outcomes. You know, examples may include sticking to routines, avoiding new situations, staying in the job you dislike but you just find familiar, always ordering the same meal from the same restaurant because you know what you're going to get and you know it's going to be good. Not speaking up for fear of what people will think, sticking to familiar hobbies, maybe not exploring new places. And I'm using public speaking as an example right now, as it's something that I've grown in, but every time I know it is definitely the Holy Spirit who equips me with what I need to do and to be able to get up to the front. And I remember the first time that I spoke on a Sunday morning, and it was this surreal feeling because I was up here, but I felt the closeness of God with me. And I felt his presence so close to me because it's not an area that I'd say is actually my natural gifting, a place that I can feel really uneasy and certainly not comfortable. And yet God was right there with me in it. And in not being in my comfort zone or operating from my own strength, I saw God move in my life. You see, the danger of remaining in your comfort zone, that place of being comfortable without risk, is also a place where growth stagnates. It's a place that can prevent you from trying new things, reaching your full potential. Even stepping out of your comfort zone in small ways can lead to new experiences, increased confidence, and a more fulfilling life. And ultimately, knowing God more, leaning and depending on him more and growing closer to him. And the heart of what I want to share today is this: say yes to God. I could just sit down there now. Say yes to God. It's what I want hope that you'll leave today is say yes to God. And it might be something that is completely out of your comfort zone. It might be something that you're struggling to let go of. It might be something that causes anxiety or fear within you. And just the idea of me talking about this morning is like, oh, I know what God's asking me to do, and I'm struggling to say yes. It might be something that you don't actually fully understand why God would be asking you that, or something that seems maybe out of your gifting and ability, something way out of your control. But despite all those natural feelings and emotions, I want to encourage you and I want to challenge you to not let anything get in the way of saying yes to what God is asking of you. And God speaks to us in so many different ways. And in order for us to say yes to God, we need to know what He is actually saying to us. So I ask you, what is God saying to you? What is God saying to you today? And if you don't know, take time to spend with Him. Know what He is saying. Seek to know what He is saying to you. And if you don't know actually, how does God even speak to me? Spend time getting to know God in the quiet, reading the Bible. But like I've said on a number of times, we're part of an amazing community. And if you ask different people in the room, they'll be able to share with you how God speaks to them in their life. Because if you want to move in what God is saying to you, if you want to be able to please Him because we're like, yes, God, you're saying this to me and I want to obey you, we've actually got to know what He's saying. And throughout the Bible, God calls people and He continues to call us today. He calls us to relationship with Him, to live lives that reflect His character and to participate in His redemptive work in the world. And saying yes to God is more than just a yes response. You might have people in your life who, even if they say yes, it doesn't mean that they will do what they're going to say they're going to do. Let's not be people who say yes, yes, but not do it, but let's be people who say yes and put it into action. You see, saying yes to God is a posture of the heart, a commitment of our lives and willingness to step into the unknown with Him. How exciting. God has a plan for all of our lives. No matter how young, no matter how old, God still has a plan for every person's life. He knows you, He knows your gifting, He knows your passions, He knows your personality, and He calls you to walk with Him. And the plans that He has for your life are to advance His kingdom, whether that's through your character, your actions, but it comes through saying yes and living the light of that decision. And believe it or not, it often involves stepping out of your comfort zone. Laying down control. Huge one. Laying down control. And knowing what the future might have in store. You see, I don't think God calls us to stay exactly where we are, doing exactly what we're comfortable with. But He calls us, He stretches us, He challenges us, and this requires faith. Faith to trust in Him and what He is asking. And you know what? That comes through relationship with Him. Knowing God. And I liken it to getting to know anyone. If you want to get to know someone, how do you get to know them? Spend time with them. Talk to them. Listen to them. Be with them in different situations of their life, and you will come to know them and have built a relationship with them. And I think it's the same with God. If you want a relationship with God, spend time with Him. Talk to Him. Listen to Him. And for as long as we keep doing things that are easy or comfortable, we rely on ourselves, which is fine. But let's not limit or ignore what God asks of us because it means stepping out. We can look at people in the Bible who did extraordinary things, and I'm sure we've probably read people's stories as well over the years of people who have done amazing things for God, seen amazing things happen, and think, wow, look how God used them. I want to be used like that. But you know what? I bet their heart was, whatever you say, God, I will do. If it means looking daft, I'll look daft. If it means stepping out of my comfort zone, I'm going to say yes anyway. If it means me laying down control and choosing to keep laying down control in different areas in my life, I keep choosing to do that. If it means making decisions in line with your will, even if my flesh, even if everything within me finds it hard, I choose to say yes because I'm choosing to follow you. In Genesis 12, 1 to 4, we read about Abraham. He was told to leave his country, his people, and his father's household to go to a land that God would show him. He promised to make him into a great nation, bless him, and make his name great. And I always think when we read the Bible, we always know the end. And so I think sometimes I can be guilty of this, is we can miss in that moment what that person was facing. Abraham got called to leave his land to go to somewhere he had no idea where he was going. He got told to leave his family, his father's household, and go. Wow. And he said yes. And you know what? If he'd not said yes, we wouldn't even know about him today. But he said yes. He was prepared to leave behind what was comfortable to him, his family, his home, and he was prepared to be like, yes, I am going with what you're saying. Years ago, I was coming to the end of my degree. Me and Ben were long distance. We'd been long distance for almost about a year, which was really hard in itself. And we were coming to this place of, right, okay, we need to move to the same place. And we were praying, God, where do you want to move us? I really wanted to move back to Wirral. Probably Ben wanted to stay in Birmingham. But we were like, God, whatever you want, whatever you say, please be the Wirral though. And I remember we were talking to different people and asking for their wisdom and stuff. But I remember it was just in the time of my quiet with God, being like, God, where do you want us? And I knew something went inside of me, and I knew God was saying, move to Birmingham. And it was like, are you sure, God, you said that? Like, I don't know if that was clear enough. Like, just say it even clearer for me, because yeah. And Ben happened to ring me, and he was like, has God said anything to you? And I was just like, mm, yeah, okay, he's said to move to Birmingham. I was like, but you carry on praying just in case I've heard wrong, like, 'cause it still could be the Wirral. And but no. So we said yes. Ben was in Birmingham. I I was coming out of the degree, didn't have a job, didn't have anywhere to live, but God said move to Birmingham, so that's what we were gonna do. And it's just amazing how God provides. A lovely lady in the church let me stay with her. I got a job really quickly. Um but you know what? It was really hard. To begin with, Ben was sort of my only person in Birmingham, and I felt really lonely. I've not felt loneliness like it, of just feeling like I didn't really know anyone. And but God's goodness in it all. And you know what? Through moving to Birmingham for 4 years, God taught me so much about myself. He taught me so much about relationships. He taught me so much about church, and it was so good. As I look back, I just know that was where we were meant to be. But you know what? It's hard, and when I was looking at Abraham, I thought, you know what? He was leaving everything behind to go somewhere he didn't even know people, but he said yes anyway. Sometimes God asks us to leave behind the familiar, the old habits, limiting beliefs, even relationships that aren't aligning with His will, and step into the unknown. I don't know how many people like adventure in the room, but stepping into that unknown, not knowing what's going to happen. But you know what? You're walking through with God, and God's got it. But it's just taking yes each step of the way. Moving on, we've done Abraham, Moses. God called him from the burning bush. He told him to go to Pharaoh and tell him to let the Israelites go. Now, Pharaoh was this amazing, powerful man. He had such authority, and he relied on the Israelites to do a lot of the work in Egypt. They were his slaves, really. And Moses already had a history with Pharaoh, and he was asked to go back to him, to this really powerful guy that could probably do anything, and tell him to let all this group of people go. Now, for those who don't like speaking in front of people, there's one thing. Those who maybe don't enjoy conflict could have been another thing. But can you imagine how he must have felt being tasked with this amazing thing of like, okay, I've got to go all the way back, and I've got to go and speak to Pharaoh, and I've got to tell him to let these Israelites go. And that feeling of, you've asked me, but please will you ask someone else? And what I love about Moses' encounter with God is just the humanness to his response. Moses feels completely inadequate. And how many in this room, when God asks you to do something or to step out, you say no because actually you just feel inadequate? You feel like, why has God asked me? And Moses goes on to say that, who am I? Who am I? How many can relate to that initial response? Who am I, God, that you would ask me to share something? Who am I that you would ask me to do this? And this is God's response to Moses. I will be with you. Doesn't as such answer the part of the question, but it does in the same way. I am with you. Who am I? Don't worry about who you are. I am with you. But for Moses, that wasn't enough. He then goes on to say, but what is his name? Who are you? And Moses goes, I am who I am. I will be what I will be. Showing the greatness of God. Moses carries on with the questions to God. What if they don't believe me or listen to me? So God shows Moses that he will make himself known. Turns his staff into a snake, puts his hand in his pocket and it becomes leprous. He turns the water into blood. And despite all this, Moses is still like, no, I have never been eloquent in speech, like I am slow of speech and tongue. God responds, reminds Moses of who he is, who gave human beings their mouth. Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. And despite all of this, how many of us would still say what Moses goes on to say? Please send someone else. And I love the story of Moses, because I think so many of us can probably relate to that, of just like, please not me, please. They're really gifted in this way. Just send them. They'll do it so much better than I will. But God called Moses. And we can often feel unqualified, inadequate for God's call. But God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. He equips the called. If God calls you, he will equip you. You know, our weaknesses become platforms for his strength to be displayed. You know, in 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9, one of those verses that people often spread around, my grace is enough for you. My power comes to perfection in weakness. And moving on from Moses, we've got the amazing woman in Luke 1, Mary, Jesus' mother. You know, the angel appeared to Mary, a young virgin, engaged to be married, to say that she would conceive and give birth to the Son of God. Wow. Mary's response, I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. And what Mary was agreeing to was potentially setting her up for being disowned by her family, by the whole social grouping around her, her community, being cut off from everything. And in first century Israel, a culture that highly valued marriage, highly valued family, an unmarried woman getting pregnant who was betrothed would have faced severe social consequences, potentially stoning to death. This was culturally just scandalous, and a human impossible request. She didn't even question. She just said, yes, may it be as you say. And again, we know the outcome. We know it all works out well for Mary. Joseph agrees to marrying her. They have the baby. But she didn't know that at the time. But she trusted God. God can call us in ways which do not fit in with our culture, that don't make sense, that seem impossible. But Mary's yes reminds us that we can trust who God is and his ability to do the miraculous through us. By things that don't fit in with our culture, we've just done a whole series of how to follow Jesus. Saying yes, to forgiving whoever wrongs you and not taking revenge. Saying yes to not engaging in gossip, in work, in the church, socially. Saying yes to aligning our relationships, our sex life with God's desires. Saying yes to sowing our finances into the kingdom of God. Yes to rest. Yes to everything that Jesus asks of me. And these can all be things that are seen so culturally different to those around us. But let's say yes to God and watch what God will do with a heart that is willing. And it might not be easy, but Jesus never promised it would be. And the final example, but if you read the Bible, you'll find example after example of what I'm talking about today. The disciples. Jesus said, "Follow me." They left their nets, their livelihood, their jobs, something they were comfortable with, what they got a wage from. They left it all to follow Jesus. No hesitation, no debate, not let me think about it. They dropped everything and followed. And God's call can often requires immediate obedience. Procrastination can often lead to missed events as we try and process it all on our head and think, okay, how's this going to work out and how I'm going to do that and how I'm going to do that, and actually I still feel inadequate and it shouldn't be me and that person would be so much better. And we can go through so much in our head instead of saying, God, you're saying this to me, yes, I will do it. The disciples followed Jesus and got to spend 3 years with him. 3 years of their life they got to walk with Jesus. They got to see how he lived. They got to see what he did. They got to hear his teaching. It cost them a lot, but they got to be with Jesus for 3 years. And I don't think they would have ever changed their time for that. If you want to know God, and if you want to see him do amazing ways in your life, in my life, if you want to see his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, your answer has to be yes. God, I know you're asking me this, and it scares me. I feel completely out of my depth. I don't know how all this is going to work, but I say yes. God can do anything with a person who is prepared to say yes. And I was just thinking about experiences within my life, and just a current one that me and Ben are in at the minute is, a lot of you'll know, we've just been approved to adopt, which is really exciting. It's been a year in the making, and it's something that adoption is something that me and Ben have always thought about, but it's never been something that we've sort of said, yes, we're going to go with this. And last year, I was fasting and just spending time with God. And I just knew God was saying to me, it's now time to start that process of adoption. I've got a child waiting for you. And this was really exciting and completely terrifying. And I've got no idea what this journey is going to look like ahead. No idea what the future's got in store. But I know that this is something that God's asked us to do. We said yes, and we're going to trust him with each step along the way. If we overthink it, if we try and have it all nailed down, or if we try and work out how it will all work, it can be overwhelming. And we can also miss out on what God is actually saying and doing what he's asking us to do. You know, for me, it's been times when I've read the word, I've heard someone speak on a Sunday, I've listened to a podcast, and I just know what God is saying to me, and I know what changes I need to bring into my life. Where I'm to live, how I handle my money, my attitudes, my routines. But I also know there have been times in my life when I haven't said yes. I've been there, I've listened to the voices that have said, you're not good enough to do this. Someone else will be better. Why on earth am I doing this? Like, you know, this is too much for me. I can't do this. And I've said no. But I always think, if I'd said yes. And I don't want to be someone who lives in the past. I want going forward to be someone that says yes. God, if you're saying something to me, I want to say yes to what you're saying. I don't want to live out of fear. And what is exciting is that whatever God asks of you, he will always provide the grace, the strength, the resources, the wisdom. He will supply you with everything that you need to do what he's asking you to do. And saying yes, it's not a one-time event, but it's a continuous journey of surrender and obedience at every opportunity. And there will be challenges. And there will be doubts and detours, but God remains faithful. And God calls us all to a deeper intimacy with Him, a place where we die to ourselves and the things that are not pleasing or simply are just not of God. He calls us to step out of our comfort zones. You know, last Monday in our sonship study, we were saying how God never said being a Christian was comfortable. It's such a lie that we can live in. That God just wants us to remain where we are, to never push the boundaries, to never get out of our comfort zones, that He's happy with us just doing our own thing and ignoring Him. But what He offers us is that we can trust Him. And as we step out of our comfort zones and not allow fear to control us, we will see God move. And in order to say yes to God, we need to know God. We have to choose to trust Him. We have to choose to believe in who He says He is and to put our faith in Him. The relationships in my life, those people that have been by my side, who have not gossiped about me, who have helped me in the hardest times of my life, that I trust. I know them. I know they'll always be there for me. But how much more with God? He will always be there for you. He will always equip you with what you need. He will always provide for you. He will always be your helper, your rock, your deliverer. Whatever you need in what He's asked you to do, He will be that. But it's knowing Him. It's choosing to know that yourself, that as you step out, you will see God's goodness, you will see God's provision, you will see God work in your life in miraculous ways. You will know God's peace, know God's joy. You will come to know Him in a way that you've never known Him before. But it's through relationship, and it's choosing to trust in Him and say, yes, I'm in. Now, I've got something a little bit different to finish with. I've got a video for us. Sarah couldn't be here today. She's on her holidays, but she has a testimony that I asked her to share with us. So we're just going to play that video.
So, Steph has asked if I could share a short testimony about something simple but life-changing, saying yes to God. So let's be honest, sometimes saying yes to God feels like agreeing to go in skydiving with no parachute. You're like, God, are you sure? But here's the thing, God isn't trying to wreck your life, He's trying to launch it. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. That's not just poetic, it's a promise. God doesn't ask for blind obedience, He invites us into a relationship of trust. Now, I didn't always say yes to God. There was a time I kept saying no, thinking my way was better. Every problem or issue I came across, I would try and figure it out for myself, but I would end up stressed, having sleepless nights, and really anxious about how I would figure it all out. But when I finally surrendered, God flipped my life from survival mode to purpose mode. So a few weeks ago, I've spent some time with God, and He said very clear to me, hand in your notice and trust me. Now, I love my job, I love the girls and my clients, I make a lot of money, and I'm actually really good at what I do. So I wondered why God was asking me to do this, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. As soon as Alex was home, I told him about what I'd heard from God, wondering how He would respond. I mean, we've just sold our house, we're looking to move, really counting our pennies at the moment. There seemed to be like completely the wrong time to be doing this. We might not understand God's timing, but we can definitely trust it. Alex and I had a chat, and we both agreed that if it was what I heard from God, we have to be obedient and just say yes. So the next working day, I got my managers all together, feeling really nervous, and told them that I was leaving. They couldn't understand. They asked what they could do to make me stay. They tried to tempt me with all different things, shorter hours, weekends off. However, I felt like I needed to stick to my decision, hand in my notice, and trust in God. It was one of the scariest things I've ever done, and one of the biggest decisions God has ever asked me to do, without knowing what's going to happen next. But I know that we'll be okay. And the moment I sent off my official email of resignation, I felt free, and at peace. And as it happened, I landed my old job back easily with more money per hour, weekends off, less hours, meaning no late nights, no getting home at 20 to 9 at night, meaning more family time, more fellowship with everyone, more study time, and more time of rest and time with God. Saying yes has changed our lives for the better. Of saying yes to God can be really, really scary, but also really exciting. If you're not sure where to start saying yes, you could start with small yeses, maybe coming to the morning prayer meeting, spending 5 minutes with God, helping someone who can't repay you, or forgiving someone even when it feels uncomfortable. Say yes before you know the how. God rarely gives us the whole blueprint, He just needs your agreement. And listen to God. Sometimes God takes you to places that you've never imagined. Jonah said no and ended up in a fish. Don't be like Jonah. Fish gutter gross. So next time God nudges you, whether it's to speak up or step out or surrender something, just say yes, because every yes to God leads to something greater than we could ever plan.
Yeah, it's a shame you couldn't get up here today and share it with us, but we've got the second best of a video, so that's good. But yeah, saying yes to God, as she said, leads to something greater than we could ever plan. So good. But that's what I've got for today, and just want to bring it to a close, really. But I just really want to encourage you to leave here with yes. I am going to say yes. That, when you're spending time with God, when you're hearing something, God speaks in so many different ways through different conversation. Well, as I said, He speaks in so many different ways. But as He speaks to you, don't overthink it. If you know what God is saying, say yes. Speak to someone. Get someone to help you walk that with you, to pray with you, to stand with you. But don't allow the negative thinking of feeling inadequate, in feeling like you're not gifted enough, in feeling like God has made a mistake and should have used someone else. But hear what God is saying and say yes. Because you know what? There is no stopping someone who is prepared to say yes. And there's no stopping what God can do in someone's life who is just like, God, use me. And in whatever you say, I will do. So, just to finish then, if everyone wants to stand up, if you're like, yes, I'm prepared to say yes, whatever comes along. Yeah, Holy Spirit, I just thank you for every person in this room, and I thank you for every heart that is wanting to follow you and wanting to do as you're asking them to do. God, you know we're human, and you know how many different things can stop us from stepping out in what you're saying. And God, I do just pray for your blessing upon every person. I just pray that anything that's going in their head right now of them knowing what you're saying to them, God, I pray that nothing would snatch that away. No lies to come into their head and tell them they're not good enough, they're inadequate, that it's too much, it's too out of their control, what's the future going to look like. But God, I just pray for just a responsive yes within each person. God, I just pray that you protect each person's mind. And God, for just, Holy Spirit, just that you would just take just anything that's not of you away, any barriers away. Some of the lies we listen to are so deep rooted. And God, I just pray that you'd start to pull them out. Pull these lies out of people's minds, pull these lies out of people's hearts. Messages maybe they've been told all their life. God, I pray that you take them out. Holy Spirit, just ask that you continue to do this work in people's hearts and lives. And God, I pray that you'd help us as a community to get alongside each other, to encourage one another, to walk the walk with each other. But we just say, God, we're yours. Use us in whatever way you want to use us. Let us hear your voice clearly. Let us know your voice clearly. Just remove any blockages. Amen. We hope that you've been blessed by this message. If you have any questions or comments, please contact us at www.iccc.org. kingschurchwirral.co.uk.